He not busy being born is busy dying. That's from It's All Right, Ma, I'm Only Bleeding, Bob Dylan. I've got to disagree just a little bit with that famous assessment. I think being aware of dying is a good idea, but the line really should be something more like, he not busy being born is getting closer to inevitable death, even though that wouldn't work as well in a song. Being alive is a state. Sickness and health are names for a continuum of system conditions within the alive state. Dying is something different. We really aren't busy dying. In sickness and health, we experience a constantly changing situation across multiple fronts. It's dynamic. Events which promote illness happen all the time. We meet them head-on, consciously or unconsciously, with biochemistry and behavior. The best we can realistically expect is some kind of balance toward the healthy side of the continuum between the powerful, increasing tendencies built into our systems and the constraining ones that hold them in check. Homeostasis, it's called. Dying is when there's no more balance, no more dynamic, no more back and forth from relatively sick to relatively healthy. Dying is so different, we will not grasp what is happening to us if we see it as more of the same old sickness and health mindset we've known since some point in childhood. Because we've observed them, we know that newborns are substantially different from children. Busy being born is its own state, one of the points of Dylan's observation. Busy dying is its own state too, with a large sickness and health chunk in between the two. 3 states. The fact that the transition out of being born and, most of a lifetime later, the transition into dying is not sharply definable does not alter the usefulness of seeing dying as its own state, the 3rd state. We're systems at every level from cells up to our whole self. Systems constantly generate stimuli and are constantly bombarded with stimuli from the external world. How systems react to changing variables is called feedback, positive or negative. In a positive feedback cycle, the changing variable is amplified. In a negative feedback cycle, it's opposed. Negative feedback cycles keep us alive in homeostasis. Positive feedback is inherently destabilizing, like successful investors attracting more and more money until things fall apart. A slippery slope is a positive feedback cycle. The more you go, the faster you fall. Systems need constraints, and as organisms, we're full of them. Negative feedback loops are used to control body temperature, to regulate glucose in the blood, and countless other processes at every level of resolution. Dying is the phase of life in which the negative feedback loops stop constraining the slippery slopes. It's not a long-lasting phase. The organism, still alive, goes through a period of system breakdown. You have to be alive to be dying. Positive feedback loops send everything to the limit, all the physiological variables. Dying is an active process. It doesn't happen to us. We make it happen when the positive feedback cycles go wild. I'm not sure that the popular image of our systems shutting down is the right way to think about it. In some ways, our systems don't shut down. They actually try to go into overdrive as they are increasingly unable to execute their proper function. It's more like going berserk and screwing up than shutting down. The ultimate screw-up, of course, is not delivering the O2, the oxygen. Irreversible oxygen problems. This is really the defining characteristic of the distinct stage that is dying. Different parts of the organism cope with not enough oxygen in different ways. Usually a good problem solver, the brain doesn't handle the oxygen problem particularly well. It needs a lot, and it doesn't have much in the way of reserves. So in a relatively short period of time of maybe 3 to 7 minutes, an oxygen-deprived brain stops doing the things brains need to do, including heart management. Without the electrical direction it has always had, the heart doesn't last very long on its own. Except in cases of instant or nearly instant death, dying goes pretty much the same low oxygen route for everyone. When there isn't enough oxygen to go around, the brain tries to get it all, reducing circulation to the outside edges first. When things get really bad, it sends out urgent signals to inhale, which cannot be ignored. And so the family sees a pattern of a few big gulps, a sigh, and then 10 to 30 seconds of no breathing, maybe repeated a few times toward the very end of dying.